They laughed before they even saw her face. A crowd had gathered under the gray morning sky, just outside the school's main entrance. The usual sounds of chatter, rustling backpacks, and hurried footsteps were drowned out by an unsettling silence as eyes turned toward a girl standing alone. Arms folded tightly across her chest, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes cast downward. Madeline Rivers. She had always been the kind of girl who could slip in and out of a room without anyone noticing. Not because she wasn't worth noticing, but because she chose to move through life quietly. While others competed for attention in noisy groups, she preferred sitting under trees with a book or helping teachers clean up after class when no one was watching. But that morning, people were watching. And the people who watched weren't kind. Derek Carmichael was the kind of person people followed, even when they shouldn't. He had power, not the kind that's earned, but the kind that's taken. His father was a respected figure in town, and that gave Derek the freedom to walk the halls like he owned them. Teachers ignored his misbehavior. Students laughed nervously at his jokes, even when they were cruel. Especially when they were cruel. Madeline had never given Derek attention, and maybe that's what made her his target. That morning, he saw her talking to her friends outside the school building. Nothing loud, nothing unusual, just a moment of quiet conversation. But Derek was in one of his moods, the kind where someone else had to feel small so he could feel important. He walked up to her, smiling that dangerous, smug smile. Before anyone could process what was happening, he reached out and grabbed the collar of Madeline's shirt. With one swift motion, he yanked it hard. The fabric tore with a sound that seemed louder than it should have been. Gasps erupted from the group. Madeline's face froze in a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and fury. Her friends stepped forward, but hesitated, stunned. It was a humiliation meant to break her. It didn't. Madeline stood still for half a second. That was all she needed. Then, she let go of the books in her hands. They hit the ground with a thud. And before Derek could blink, she moved. Her foot swung up with precision and power, a motion practiced 100 times in silence, and connected squarely with his face. The crack of impact was unmistakable. Derek stumbled backward, blood gushing from his nose, falling to the pavement with a groan. For the first time in a long while, he was speechless. Everyone around them stood frozen. Madeline didn't speak. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply turned, picked up her books, and walked away. What most people didn't know was that Madeline had been preparing for this kind of moment for years. After a traumatic event in her childhood, one where she and her mother were cornered by a man with a knife during a late-night walk, her father, a retired Marine, enrolled her in self-defense classes. At first, she resisted, but slowly, she grew to love the discipline, the focus, and the confidence it gave her. She learned how to defend herself, not just physically, but mentally too. She never expected to use what she'd learned. But life has its own timing. The school's response was swift. Derek was taken to the nurse's office and later suspended. His father tried to pull strings, but this time, too many people had seen what happened. Too many students spoke up, not just about what they saw that day, but about years of torment and fear. As for Madeline, she was called to the principal's office. But this time, it wasn't to be reprimanded. It was to be heard. Teachers who had overlooked her now sat across from her, listening. She spoke softly, but every word carried weight. She told them she hadn't acted out of rage, but out of necessity. That for too long, people like Derek had gotten away with cruelty, while everyone else looked away. That she didn't want revenge. She wanted change. And for the first time, change began to take root. Weeks passed. Whispers in the hallway turned to quiet admiration. Classmates who once ignored her now nodded in respect. Others, who had been bullied themselves, began to open up. Teachers noticed a shift in how students treated one another. A conversation had started one that should have happened years ago. But Madeline didn't let the attention change her. She still sat in the same corner of the library, still helped teachers clean up after class, still preferred peace over noise. But now, people saw her for who she really was, not the quiet girl, but the strong one. In the end, Madeline never asked to be a hero. She didn't want the spotlight. All she wanted was to live in a world where kindness didn't make you a target, and silence wasn't mistaken for weakness. That day in the courtyard, she didn't just stand up for herself. She stood up for every student who had ever been pushed too far. And she proved a truth that many forget. Sometimes the loudest strength is the one that doesn't need to shout.